Darcy Freer. John Froberg. Elaine Gabriela Garcia. Christopher Garris. Jennifer Yahweh Gu. Jeffrey Gerald. Andrew Giacomelli. Nicholas Giovannone. Kelly Marie Gerskis. David Gutenberg. Natalie Hendrick. Ian Thomas Hill. Thomas Howard. Jennifer Shao. E.G. Hua. Kai Ying Sharon Hung. Tyler Hike. Minsuk Hyun. Mark Justin Yampetro. Guadalupe Hasso. Zihong Kung. Jesseline Kanwal. Jack Kerschmitsky. Ryan Kismikas. Elizabeth Lane. Sydney Louise Lavoie. Jacob Layer. Xining Lung. Sida Liao. Vinitra Mani. Anna Mauer. Kristen Mengwasser. Brittany Michelle. Eric Minico. Daniel Montoro. Fedi John Najib. Joseph Negri. Caitlin Adair Nichols. Luke O'Connor. Donglim Park. Rohan Ramesh. Jessica Elise Sagers. Amy Shady. Samantha Shillett. Michael Schultz. Tebotima Sen. Jem Schengel. Rodwa Sharaf. Chinmay Shukla. Irene Heidi Sidholm. Whitney Silkworth. Sindhu Carmen Sivakumaran. Camille Slowikowski. Shimei Sun. Roxana Tarnita. Rong An Pei. Christopher Zhang. Sonia Miniko Valab. Chen Yu Wang. Liang Wei Wang. Hua Ying Wang. Xiaoyi Wang. Yu Wang. Charles Xu. Stephen Zhang. Zimin Zhang. And that concludes the degree candidates for the Division of Medical Sciences. Now, I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Committee on Biophysics. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Melissa Haskell. Zamin Tat. Vicente Parot. And that concludes the candidates for the Committee on Biophysics. Now, I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Committee on Population Health Sciences. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Leila Alshar. Sarah McGew. Ji Hui Huang. And that concludes the candidates for the Committee on Population Health Sciences. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Committee on Health Policy. Now, the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Savannah Bergquist. Caitlin Carroll. Anas El Turabi. Adrian Garcia Mosqueira. Ali Hamandi. Cassandra Peitzman. Talia Portney. Emma Sando. Philip Sainish. And that concludes the candidates for the Committee on Health Policy. Now, I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Committee on Systems Biology. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Ivana Cvijovic. Daniel Flicker. Jonathan Gutenberg. Anna Gustafson Green. John Ingram. Jocelyn Yoshiko Kishi. Charleston Noble. Narendra Pundarik Tolabragada. And that concludes the candidates from the Committee on Systems Biology. Now, I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Committee on Chemical Biology. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Charlene Chan. Olufunbi Farbami. Yolanda Wang. Samuel Michael Levy. Zebulon Garrett Levine. Haoxin Li. Matthew Joseph McBride. Ninka Moret. Marina Orman. Tristan Owens. Javier Pineda. Nathan Schauer. Emma Spady. Jessica Spinelli. And that concludes the candidates from the Committee on Chemical Biology. Now, I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Committee on Chemical Physics. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Boran Han. Jonathan Romero Fontalvo. Jennifer Wei. Sean Yu. Tao Zhao. That concludes the candidates from the Committee on Chemical Physics. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of Chemistry and Chemical Biology. And now the candidates for the Master of Arts, Milika Markovic. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy, Aykut Aydin. Amy Marie Bartholomew. Jennifer Bergner. Jeffrey Besson. Adam Birdsall. Corey Clapp. Christopher Jerry. Woonsuk Ham. David Lee. Benjamin Joseph Levin. Nancy Lee. Charles Marguerite. Andrew Mayfield. Katrina Meny. Sean Daniel Nelson, Jr. Rocco Louis Policarpio III. Holly Reese. Frederick Rubino. Benjamin Manuel Sanchez Lengeling. Benjamin Schneider. Wirasak Sisukmimit. Justin James Teasdale. Yuxing Xiao, Li Jia, Ge Zhang, Weicheng Zhuang. And that concludes the candidates from the Department of Chemistry and Chemical Biology. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Committee on Business Economics. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Weiling Lu. Janelle Schlossberger. Jishuan Wang. And that concludes the candidates from the Committee on Business Economics. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of Economics. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Joshua David Abel. Matthew Basilico. Valentine Bolotny. William Bruno. Ruiqing Cao. Ashley Craig. Alora Derencourt. Ashvin Gandhi. Si Chao He. Jessica Liu. Matteo Paradisi. Michael Ware. Natasha Sarin. Jie Yun Shin. Henrik Sigstad. Ling To. Shoshana Wasserman. Chenzi Shu. He Young. And that concludes the candidates from the Department of Economics. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of Government. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Jacob Samuel Abolafia. Christopher Carruthers. Connor Huff. Rushab Doshi. Maria Belen Fernandez Milmanda. Chase Foster. Rebecca Goldstein. Jonathan Gould. Yichen Guan. Dana Lynn Higgins. Jennifer Hawk. Tyler Jost. Aaron Kaufman. Maya Komisarchik. Dominika Khrushcheva. Adam Leibovitz. Brian Liebgoher. Daniel Moskowitz. Jason Sklar. Shanna Wheats. Tess Wise. And that concludes the candidates from the Department of Government. We will now briefly pause and invite our friends and family currently outside in the hospitality tents to join us in the balcony and mezzanine. Once the last guest has entered the theatre, we will resume the ceremony and invite our remaining candidates to receive their diplomas.
Good afternoon. I'm Sheila Thomas, Dean for Academic Programs and Diversity for the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. I want to extend my greetings and warm welcome to the graduates and everyone else that's here to celebrate the amazing accomplishments of our students. As Steve McCavanagh said earlier, once you've received your diploma, please return to your seat. Once all the graduates have crossed the stage, we invite guests and graduates to join us for the champagne reception and luncheon at the Lawns at Richards Hall. Now, I'd like to continue this ceremony by welcoming to the stage the faculty from the John A. Paulson School of Engineering and Applied Sciences. And now the candidates for the Master of Science. Mary Catherine Bird. Miles Faubourg. Zaichi Gül. Dan Ring. Chia Chi-ho. Xi-Ching Shui. Xinhua Jiang. Xiaohong Jin. Bernard Kleinhans. Justin Sun Yong Lee. Sebastian Lemieux Coder. Jejun Liu. Paxton Mader York. Rory Mazels. Kimia Mavan. Divyam Mishra. Karan Rajesh Motwani. Zhufeng Peng. Andrea Pirelli. Hongshun Chiu. Xiun Chiu. Benjamin Raffetto. Hugo Ramambason. Nicholas Joseph Ruta. Shen Yijun. Xiang Ru Shu. Boyuan Sun. Sean Telford. Yaniv Toledano. Jiawen Tong. Yudi Wang. Wang Yuyue. Jai Yi. Weihong Zhang. Ziyu Chao. And now the candidates for the Master of Engineering. Vincent Kasser. Ray Fun. Camilo Fosco. Adam Cratch. Donghun Lee. Meho Smriti Rajay. Srivatsan Srinivasan. Yichi She. Zheng Yong. And now the candidates for Doctor of Philosophy. Sungkuk On. Carlo Alberto Amade. Eric Volkonsky. Nicholas Warren Bartlett. Miriam Cha. Kundan Chowdhury. Yishao Chen. Austin Cheng. Junhee Choi. Danny Chua. August Domel. Neil Doshi. Mihai Duduta. Holly Golecki. Sarah Greasy Nascimento. Daniel Han. Elizabeth Helbling. Chengzi Anna Huang. Jung Suk Kang. Nam Wook. Michael Crater. Nanshi Lee. Wongyu Lo. Hongyao Ma. Joannas Dionysus Massacres. Demalia Mandal. Bradley Wade McDaniel. Srujun Misala. Kyriakos Mutafopoulos. Yushraj Narang. Seraph Nawar. Alexander Nadich. Emily Padston. John Pujay Abadi. Pished Prawes Chotinan. Guannan Shui. Teresa Raimondu. Michelle Rosen. Suzanne Simoes Desa. Nina Sinatra. Du Sun. Surat Tirapitayanan. Kevin Tien. Andrea Tokranov. Daryl Vulhis. Xian Guan. Danqing Wang. Yechung Wang. Andrew Allen Wong. Felix Wong. Li Quin Shi. Jiawei Yang. Zhongzhong Yu. Yuancheng Zhu. These are the graduates of the John A. Paulson School of Engineering and Applied Sciences. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty from the Department of African and African American Studies. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Lowell Brower. Shambi Chachaye. Warwick Moses. Ayodeji Ugunaike. These are the graduates of the Department of African and African American Studies. And now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Committee on American Studies. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Amanda Fish. Whitney Robles. These are the graduates of the PhD program in American Studies. No, Lindsay. And now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of Anthropology. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Jonathan Clendaniel. Zoe Antoinette Desi Lequier Eddy. These are the graduates of the Department of Anthropology. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Committee on Architecture, Landscape Architecture, and Urban Planning. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Matthew Allen. Lisa Haber Thompson. Brian Norwood. Marianne Putba. These are the graduates from the Committee on Architecture, Landscape Architecture, and Urban Planning. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of Astronomy. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Peter Blanchard. Benjamin Cook. Lehman Haley Garrison IV. Meng Gu. Yuton Shan. Xiaowei Wang. These are the graduates of the Department of Astronomy. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of Celtic Languages and Literatures. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Gregory Darwin. Deborah Furchtigot. These are the graduates of the Department of Celtic Languages and Literatures. And now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of the Classics. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Calliope Duru. Michael Leonard Konieczny. These are the graduates of the Department of the Classics. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of Comparative Literature. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Daniel Bihar. Molly Kleisner. Arturo Nicolau. Simos Zinios. These are the graduates of the Department of Comparative Literature. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of Earth and Planetary Sciences. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Daniel Harvey Cusworth. Joseph Fitzgerald. Eugenia Hyung. Marina Lin. Simon Locke. Tamara Pico. Rachel Silvern. These are the graduates of the Department of Earth and Planetary Sciences. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Committee on Regional Studies, East Asia. And now the candidates for the Masters of Arts. Choa Alexander. Menglan Chen. Diane Choi. Nam Huang. Fan Hong. Benjamin Albert Jacobs. Georgia Kashnig. Kwok Jiao Yao. Tao Lin. Xiao Yu Mok. Je Sun. Korn Hayan Tarn. Aaron Trumbull. Yingshui Shui. Narusa Yamato. Teresa Yonkner. Amy Yuen Zhang. Chair Zhang. These are the graduates of the Committee on Regional Studies, East Asia. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of East Asian Languages and Civilizations. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Ryan Sullivan Glasnovich. Eric Haruki Swanson. Feng En Tu. Floris Van Sweat. These are the graduates of the Department of East Asian Languages and Civilizations. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Committee on Inter-Asian and Altaic Studies. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Joshua Lurman Freeman. This is the graduate of the Committee on Inter-Asian and Altaic Studies. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of English. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Helen Cushman. Dina Fehrenbacher. Marissa Grunas. David Mulrooney. Miles Osgood. Elizabeth McKinney Phillips. Nicholas Reinhardt. Teresa Trout. These are the graduates of the Department of English. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of Germanic Languages and Literatures. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Anton Shayevich. Alexander Lambro. These are the graduates of the Department of Germanic Languages and Literatures. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of History. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Nathaniel Aschenbrenner. Charles Clavey. Barnaby Crowcraft. Mateo Cayetano Harkin. Liat Spiro. Sonia Taiko. These are the graduates of the Department of History. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of History of Art and Architecture. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Odelia Bonabaker. Marie Denali Cantarella. Margaret Innes. Courtney Tomaselli. These are the graduates of the Department of History of Art and Architecture. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of the History of Science. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Cara Kiernan Fallon. Devin Kennedy. Florin Stefan Morar. Miriam Rich. These are the graduates of the Department of the History of Science. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of Human Evolutionary Biology. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Andrew Yegian. And this is the graduate of the Department of Human Evolutionary Biology. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of Linguistics. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Christina Agazadi. Dorothy Ahn. Lena Borise. Laurence B. Violet. Susanna Fuchs. These are the graduates of the Department of Linguistics. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Committee on Middle Eastern Studies. And now the candidates for the Master of Arts. Hamad Al-Hajri. Aula Al-Rifai. Amna Al-Thani. Saha Amarir. Timothy Bowler. Joshua Dean. Tara Dhaliwal. Fritayef Lissay Falk. Miriam Ghanem. Amber Glavin. Colleen Hagerty. Suzanne LaHood. Nicholas Norberg. Ellen Stockert. Stephen Wickman. And now the candidates for Doctor of Philosophy, Efe Murat Balukcioglu. Hansien Liu. And these are the graduates of the Committee on Middle Eastern Studies.
Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of Mathematics. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy, Yowei Fan, Huan Gong, Gabriel Goldberg, Chang Ho Han, Chi Yun Shu, Zhao Yang Huang, Yousheng Liu, Max Menzies, Shaolin Danny Shi. And that concludes the graduates from the Department of Mathematics. Now, I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of Molecular and Cellular Biology. And now, the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy, Victoria Betton, Erin Ellen Deal, Christian Herrera, Olivia Ho Xing, Phoebe Yuxing She, Caitlin Lee Luark, Brenda Marine Rodriguez, Emma Nagy, Denise Sirius, Sriram Srikant, Patrick Stoddard, Dmitry Cherovanesyan, Stephanie Sai, Nico Wagner, and that concludes the graduates from the Department of Molecular and Cellular Biology. Now, I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of Music. And now, the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Rujing Huang, Crystal Klingenberg, Timothy McCormick, Manuela Meyer, Caitlin Schmid, and that concludes the graduates from the Department of Music. Now, I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of Near Eastern Languages and Civilizations. And now, the candidates for the Master of Arts. Khadija Fatih Kumar, and now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Aliasgar Alibai, Alison McQuady Blecker Al-Masri, Gregory Hullaby, Matthew Rayshore, Andrew Walton, Ryan Derek Winters, and that concludes the graduates from the Department of Near Eastern Languages and Civilizations. Now, I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of Organismic and Evolutionary Biology. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Nicole Bedford, Jasmine Camacho, Tawana Junqueira da Cunha, Bruno Sousa de Medeiros, David Frank, Morgan Furs, Kadeem Jamal Gilbert, Patrick Goring, Phil Grayson, Benjamin Jordan, Kelsey Noel Lucas, Brianna McCourse, Francesco Molina Henao, Jacob Michael Peters, Jenny Yen Pham, Mary Salcedo, Shayla Saltzman, Kira Treybergs, Carl Fella, Joseph Vitti, Dylan Wainwright. And that concludes the graduates from the Department of Organismic and Evolutionary Biology. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of Physics. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Jesse Amato Grill. Victor Bouza. Christy Chu. Carrie DiPetrillo. Xiang Feng. Ping Gao. Julia Lynn Gonski. Shannon Harvey. Patrick Charles Jefferson. Monica Jinwoo Kang. Jae-hyun Lee. Li Liao. Shamang Liu. Mason Claflin Marshall. Bawarzan Mohammedsanov. Christian Panda. Sabrina Gonzalez Paserski. Monica Pate. Avishkar Patel. Gregory Allen Phelps. Matthew Rispoli. Jennifer Roloff. Arthur Dove Safira. Shi Yichen. Tatiana Webb. Mobalaji Williams. Haiyin Wu. Charles Xiong. Liu Jun Zhu. And that concludes the graduates from the Department of Physics. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Committee on Political Economy and Government. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Juan Sebastián Galán Guerrero. Siddharth Yipen George. Søren Hen. And that concludes the graduates from the Committee on Political Economy and Government. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of Psychology. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Catherine Berkowitz. Monica Burns. Jack Chow. Haley Dorfman. Catherine Insel. Helen Jing. Benedict Kurdi. Tatiana Lau. Christelle Newman. Marie-Christine Nidzi. Edward Harold Patzelt. Maheen Sher Mohammed. Roger William Strong. Rosie Wong. Jaden Ziegler. And that concludes the graduates from the Department of Psychology. Now, I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Committee on Regional Studies, Russia, Eastern Europe, and Central Asia. And now the candidates for the Master of Arts. Nini Arshakuni. James Browning. Olga Kuzmina. Ryan Lacey. Kristen Torres. David Maximilian Valerius Vanni. Kilola Zakidova. And that concludes the graduates from the Committee on Regional Studies, Russia, Eastern Europe, and Central Asia. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Committee on the Study of Religion. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Elizabeth Julie Angowski. Deirdre de Bruin Rubio. James Gregory Given. Joanna Greenlee Klein. Sukidi Mulyadi. Rosanna Picassia. John Zaleski. And that concludes the graduates from the Committee on the Study of Religion. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of Romance Languages and Literatures. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Matthew Collins. Corrado Confalonieri. John Mark D'Amico. Jerónimo Duarte Riascos. Javier Teofilo Suárez Trejo. Hannah Weaver. And that concludes the graduates from the Department of Romance Languages and Literatures. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of Slavic Languages and Literatures. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Philip Redko. Stephen Alexander Tulloch. Maria Vasileva. Abigail Weil. And that concludes the graduates from the Department of Slavic Languages and Literatures. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Committee on Social Policy. And now the candidate for the Doctor of Philosophy, Hope Michelle Harvey. And that concludes the graduate from the Committee on Social Policy. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of Sociology. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Annie Fenton. Gru Han. Jundai Liu. Catherine Morris. Ikedi Mbondo Dika. Jasmine Sandelson. And that concludes the graduates from the Department of Sociology. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage the faculty representing the Department of Statistics. And now the candidates for the Master of Arts. Sébastien Bauer. Yi Chen. Sarun Yukasemsan. Sachin Sridhar. Richard Zhang. And now the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy. Espen Burnton. Zachary Branson. Luis Campos. Reagan Moser. Xuyang Ning. Maxime Richard. Stéphane Shao. Shihao Young. And that concludes the graduates from the Department of Statistics. And that concludes the GSES Diploma Awarding Ceremony.